One thing that I've heard you talk about in the past or going through some of your interviews was you were talking about like 5 pillars of self-mastery. So can you discuss what a little bit of what those are?
It came from my study of what's called lifestyle medicine. So when I was working as a doctor, I started to ask a lot of questions. I see people that weren't getting better, and I was frustrated. I couldn't make them better. 4 out of 5 people I was seeing, I was giving more pills to. And so someone at work said, have you heard of this thing called lifestyle medicine? And that's a specialty that could treat and reverse conditions without drugs, just through lifestyle change. And so it's interesting you mentioned James Clear's book. That's one of the books that set me off on that journey. But
Yeah.
another book and another person which is transformational is someone called Martin Seligman. And he's a forefather of the positive psychology movement. And so he taught us that there's something beyond happiness. So this is where I'm getting to the 5 pillars, bear with me. There's something beyond happiness. And that is what's called flourishing. And you can actually measure this level of well-being based on 5 things: positive emotions, how engaged you feel with life, quality relationships, the life of meaning, and accomplishments. And when I read this book, I had a massive aha because I was also studying with the world's leading high performance coach called Brendan Mashard. And he studied high performance. And I realized there was a massive overlap here. And so, 5 pillars of self mastery is a compassionate mind, a courageous purpose, calm energy, collaborative connections, and creative flow. And essentially, these are the ingredients we know with data based on millions of points of data and positive psychology. These are the ingredients to live a life of freedom, fulfillment, and flourishing.
So how did you kind of develop these 5 pillars over time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on one side of in medicine, I learned about something called uh, evidence-based medicine. So, being a doctor, we learned a lot about reading research papers. So, I wanted to bring that into my world of coaching. I wanted to bring more science and evidence behind things because there's levels of evidence, right? You go see your friend who says, "Hey, and I just tried this type of meditation. It's really good." Great, that's anecdotal evidence that works. That might work for one person. But then there's higher levels of evidence, which is based on a lot of data points. And so I wanted to develop a method that was based on a lot of data. And that's how I developed the 5 pillars of self mastery. It's based on positive psychology data. We know it works. But also, I also learned through my various study over time that science has its limitations. And so I also went into the spiritual world because often spirituality is just science that hasn't yet been proven.
Yeah.
Um, and I pull parts of that into my method as well. But the 5 pillars of self mastery are essentially based on a lot, like millions of data points, studies over 50 years, and you see compassion sits at the top of that quite simply because it's got dozens of thousands of studies that prove it's really the single most powerful thing you can do for your emotional well-being, for your personal growth. And a big concept also I'd like to speak today is the difference between self-esteem and self-compassion, which is essentially the biggest lie, misconception, untruth that the personal development industry tells you is this imbalance between self-esteem and self-compassion.